enemy air movements by telephone and radio. If a Jap bomber warmed up on a Canton airfield, word often reached this fighter control cave at Quay Lin before the plane could take off. The net also guided lost planes, and Chinese guerrillas saved many American pilots and crews who had to bail out by the Jap lines. No American stood guard, cooked, or carried. They built our quarters and did our housekeeping. Many Chinese with technical training joined the ground crews and helped keep American planes and equipment working. New American planes reinforced the battered P-40s and the B-25s that were the bomber command. Long-range B-24s, cannon-carrying B-25s, and some P-51s. Crews of the Chinese-American wing. These Chinese airmen had been trained in America and now returned to their own country, ready for revenge. But the 14th was still the smallest American Air Force and lived on a starvation diet of supplies. It took almost all the increasing hump tonnage to keep the new planes supplied with gas, bombs, and bullets. B-24s supplied themselves, flying 4 supply missions across the hump for every combat mission they flew against the Japs. This plane would be junked in any other theater. In China, it is patched with parts from other wrecks and sent back to fight again. There is firefighting equipment that would have saved the life of this pilot, but it would have displaced a 1,000-pound bomb or 200 gallons of gas in the precious hump tonnage. These are the grim choices the 14th has to make. This is the hard way to refuel. Modern gas trucks and pumps couldn't squeeze through the hump bottleneck. Gas for motor fuel is diluted with 75% alcohol, made in China. It's hard on the motors, but it saved tonnage. All this gas meant scores of dangerous hump trips and took weeks to accumulate. All of it was burned up in a single mission of one heavy bomb group. This was also burned in a single mission, a Jap mission. 15,000 gallons of gas and oil went up in this blaze when Jap night raiders hit a supply train at Luzhou. Probably the best way to explain the shoestring on which the 14th operates is to realize that everything delivered to it over the hump the first 6 months of 1944 could have been carried in 5 Liberty ships. New supply problems were created by the move to East China. High-priority cargo still moved by air. But the bulk of supplies moving to eastern bases traveled in another patchwork system of trucks, a rheumatic railroad, and these streamlined carriers. Christmas came late to East China. It was March when these Christmas packages from America and Santa Claus reached Guilin. The Flying Tigers had to do the most with the least. One bomb in China had to do the work of a dozen elsewhere. To do that, you go down low and ram it home. Like that. That was practice. By the fall of 1943, the 14th was punching the Japs from Indochina to Formosa. Shipping was the main target. The new bases brought the Japanese lifeline within easy range. This lifeline was the sea route from Japan through the Formosa Straits, down the South China Sea, to the Dutch East Indies, and the Southwest Pacific. Oil, rubber, tin, and other raw materials moved north to Japan. Troops and supplies moved south to the Pacific fighting fronts. As the Navy moved westward across the Pacific, more and more Jap shipping was squeezed into the China Sea. The 14th's hunting grew better. Every type of plane the 14th had joined the attack on Jap shipping. Fighters dive-bombed, skip-bombed, and strafed. B-25s came in at mast height with cannon fire and bombs. B-24s bombed the ports from high level, smashing docks, shipyards, and warehouses. Hong Kong was one of the targets. As a result of these attacks, the Japs realized that they had to drive the 14th China. 3 times they tried to knock the Americans out of their eastern bases. Here's where the first attack started. In the spring of 1943, the Japs drove south from the upper Yangtze. In the summer, they tried an air blitz. In the fall, they were back with an on Tungting Lake. Each time, the combination of Chinese troops and American planes hurled them back with heavy losses. In the spring of 1944 came the Great East China Offensive. 200,000 Japs poured down from the Hankow Bulge. Another 50,000 pushed north from Canton to squeeze East China in a gigantic pincer. Their objective was to drive the 14th out of China, gain control of the Hankow-Canton Railroad, and fortify the China coast against the threat of